The note taker will record it too.
Cool. All right, we're good to
go. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys all for joining. I'm excited to go through everything with you. I've spoken with Cassandra a couple times over the past few months. I've also spoken to Anthony from your team a little while back. And yeah, so excited to go through everything. I know you guys obviously are familiar with, the importance of attribution and attribution softwares. Cassandra told me that you guys use Triple Whale a lot for the e-com side of things. We're similar to Triple Whale, but we're also very, very different. So excited to go through that. I'm Buddy King. I'm an account executive here at Cometly. I've been with the team about 3 years now. Kind of started in customer success and then moved more into a sales role 2 years ago. I have a background in e-commerce myself. So my brother and I have a Shopify store together, done, tons of kind of freelance marketing and even dabbled in affiliate marketing. And so actually how I got involved here at Cometly was I was a beta tester about 4 years ago when iOS 14 first hit the market. I was beta testing for my Shopify store, got to know the co-founders pretty well, worked well with them, thought it was a really cool product. And so when they were looking to kind of start expanding, my brother and I jumped on the team. So if we do end up, working together and you guys send people our way, you'll probably work with my brother as well. The co-founders, we're a small team here, but we're very hands-on, very hardworking, very passionate. And we all come from advertising backgrounds. So actually that's kind of a difference between us and a lot of our competitors, is where competitors seem to have wanted to jump the gun and race to having a lot of cool features and integrations. We kind of took our time and really focused on what is the key to running successful ads, right? And what is the key to advertising? And so we really kind of honed in and specialized on paid channels. So we integrate with Meta, Google, TikTok, LinkedIn. Those are our integrations right now. But since we've had that dialed for a while, over the past summer, when Google switched everyone over to GA4, people are really begging to have kind of more than that, right? The organic touch points, everything involved, more or less a GA4 replacer. So we actually prioritized that. We've been working on it for a few months. That'll be available probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So I'll follow up with you guys, over the next few months and keep you updated with all of that. But the core of the product won't change very much. The core purpose of the product, it'll just have a whole lot more functionality and some cooler reporting and things like that. But all that being said, we're primarily, an iOS 14 solution. So we're focused in attribution and ad optimization. The way I was kind of thinking I would go through this is we have like a slide deck that we usually send in follow-ups and stuff. I don't normally like to do that on demo calls, but for the sake of this being more of a presentation, I'll probably just flip through the first kind of couple slides as like high-level overview, and then I'll jump into our actual Cometly account, give you guys a live demo. And feel free to kind of jump in, ask questions as we go along, but it'll probably take about 10 minutes for me to run through everything. And then I figured I'd open up a, Q&A or whatever afterwards, if all that works for you guys. But before I jump into it, is there any particular questions that you guys would want me to kind of focus on, or anything high level before I kick it off?
Maybe if you could just highlight the main differences between like you and like Triple Whale, which I know I'm a little bit more familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say there's two really big differences. One is they're all Shopify focused, right? So they have a really cool platform when it comes to our Shopify integration. Like, they do more than we do. Like pulling in costs of goods sold and, different channels. Like I said, we have the 4 channels we integrate with. They integrate with more than that. So where they have a little bit more kind of bells and whistles and functionality on the Shopify side of things, we can track for just about anything. So we're not just e-commerce. We can do B2B. We can do sales funnels. We can do lead gen. So that's probably the biggest difference between us on just a tracking standpoint. But from a kind of core product standpoint, another key difference is Triple L doesn't have conversion API. So they're just attribution and tracking, which we all know is extremely important. But they don't feed any of the data that they collect back to Facebook, back to Google. Everything that we're collecting about your visitors and your customers, we send back to those channels through the conversion API, which really helps with the audience learning, bidding, just improving targeting overall.
Sorry.
No,
but thank you.
No, that's great. I mean, I love it.
On mute.
Cool. Anything else high level before we jump into it? Okay, I'll jump into it then. So bear with me for a second. I usually use Zoom, so I got to figure out how to share my screen. Okay, so I just started sharing. Now, is this my full window, or are we just looking at the tab I have open right now?
Just the tab, I believe.
Okay, well, I'll just start here anyway, and then I'll switch my view. But yeah, so just starting with the basics here, right? Why is tracking important? I already know you guys know these things, but kind of historically, right? What made Facebook and Google and, social media advertising, the magic bullet for so many companies was they were able to track so much data. And with their ability to track, this is really what, like your Facebook pixel is designed to do, or your Google tracking code. It's 2 main things, really. I know it's 3 points here, but it's 2 main things. And those are the 2 things that, Cometly is really focused on over the years. The first thing is, by tracking everything on your site, they were really able to learn your audience, right? Learn your customer avatar, learn your, who opts in, who buys from you. And so with that, through learning your audience, they're able to make sure your ads were shown to the right people. And in turn, that drove more sales, right? They want to show the most relevant content to the most relevant people, and those people are going to be the most likely to buy. The other thing that, was so magical about tracking was, they were able to actually display for you the results of all of the ads that you were running, right? And they were never really perfect, but, prior to iOS and everything, they tracked pretty well. Maybe off 5%, 10% here and there, but generally they could measure and say, hey, campaign 1 is getting $10 leads, campaign 2 is getting $5 leads, right? So that media buyers or advertisers were able to make clear decisions, right? If their one campaign is performing better than another, put more money into that campaign. Again, I already know you guys already know this, but that's kind of, again, the key to what Cometly is doing is we want to get your ad platforms back to this level. So here are the things over the past 5 years that have been rolled out that have interrupted, Facebook's ability to track, Google's ability to track. The most common kind of buzzword that's always thrown around, right, is iOS 14. Most recently, it's iOS 17. This is really the biggest source of tracking issues for the different ad platforms. Users opting out of tracking. So in the US, it varies, depends on the store or the client, but generally about 60 to 80% of conversions come from Apple users. and 96% of Apple users are opted out of tracking. So there's massive blind spots that these companies are dealing with. On top of iOS, there's certain cookie limitations, right? If people are rejecting cookies, Google and Facebook still heavily rely on cookies for tracking. And then something that they've never really been able to do is cross-device, right? So if somebody clicked on your ad on their phone, buy on their laptop, these platforms always kind of struggled with that. So how does that affect, your ads, right? They're not really doing those two things that they're supposed to do. So with those blind spots on your site, they're not learning who your audience is. So they're not optimizing towards the right people, and they're not showing the right ads to the right people. They still are, obviously, but their ability to improve it over time has been, significantly hindered. And then the other thing that it interfered with is the actual attribution. So with these blind spots, what Facebook started doing, what Google started doing to fill your ads manager with conversions is they're estimating results. Google calls it statistical modeling, Facebook calls it statistical modeling, Google calls it conversion modeling. But essentially, they're taking a look at the 20 to 40% of traffic that they can actually observe, and they're comparing it with your cost per click and your click-through rate, and they're guessing, how many leads are being generated from each campaign or each ad set, using basically probability and statistics. So if you have, 15 leads from ad set number 1 and 5 leads from ad set number 2, right? Google might tell you that each ad set has 10, or they're distributing these. But either way, when you're going through and deciding what ads to turn up, what ads to turn off, if the data that you're making those decisions off of is incorrect, you're putting your money in the wrong places. So that's kind of, again, these are the two things that iOS, cookies, all of these tracking blockers have had the biggest impact on. Introducing Cometly, we are designed to fix those two problems, right? So our tracking code, this will go throughout your site, throughout your funnel, your clients in this case. Our code is not blocked by iOS. We are not reliant on cookies, and we can track cross-device. So we use what's called fingerprint tracking. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that or not, but essentially it's the new cutting edge way of doing things. And when somebody comes to your landing page, our code will fire, and we're collecting, well over 100 different identifiers about that visitor. Some obvious ones would be like IP address, device type, user agent, but we're even picking up on small browser settings like, font size or screen resolution. And then we take all of these different data points and we use AI to build an enhanced profile of that visitor, and we store it along with the source of their click. So that fingerprinting is the source of our magic, the source of our accuracy, kind of the source of, the power behind Cometly. And then with it, we do two things, right? We're going to send the data back to each ad platform, and we're going to display to you within our platform, where everyone's coming from. So oftentimes the first question is, how come we can collect this data, but Google or Facebook can't? And it's not really a tech issue that we're solving, although our tech is, okay, Danielle, you're just about to ask that. Perfect. So although our tech is really cool, it's not a tech issue that we're solving. It's more a regulatory issue. And it's mostly a B2B regulation imposed by Apple. So Apple's not really looking to block you or your clients, or, let's say you. They're not looking to block you from, collecting your own data on your own site. They're looking to block Meta. They're looking to block Google from tracking all of that data on your site and using it for their own, platform. So basically, when somebody, opts out of tracking, Apple's going to, let's say, Facebook and telling them, okay, for this user, you're allowed to track what they're doing on your platform, right? So Facebook's able to see who's clicking on your ads, who's engaging, who's viewing. But when they actually click on your ad and leave their platform, go through to your site, that's where the block happens. They're not allowed to follow these people outwardly all over the internet the way that they used to. Cometly, we're following the regulations of iOS. So we're really doing this kind of inbound tracking. So somebody comes to your site, we're greeting them at the door. That's where we build that profile. If they leave, we're not continuing to follow them all over the internet. That's really what Apple's looking to block. But if they come back, we'll recognize them. We'll see what they do on your site, and we can stitch all that data together. So with our tracking, right? Again, I already said it, but we're looking to just solve the root of the problem, right? So the first thing that we do is push all of this data back to Facebook, back to Google, back to LinkedIn, back to TikTok. And that helps with their optimization, right? That helps them learn your audience, build that kind of customer profile so that they make sure that your ads are shown to the right people, and in turn are able to drive more sales for you, right? Lower that cost per click or increase the click-through rate, whatever. And then we also are going to display it all inside of Cometly, right? So we know that when we send all this data back to Facebook or back to Google, we can't go in and manipulate their reporting. So it doesn't fix the reporting inside of each ad platform one for one, right? It helps, it'll really kind of start closing that gap, but it doesn't fix it entirely. And the other thing is, even if it did fix it, right, those platforms are still entirely black box, right? When you see leads reported or sales reported, there's no way of really kind of verifying that or auditing it or comparing it. So we want to display it to you in a very clear box fashion so that you can see every lead, every sale, with really, really good visibility. So that's kind of how we tackle the root of the problem. I'm going to jump into the demo here, but with some of the tools that we have built in, there's also some really, really cool functionality that allows you to advertise and strategize in really new, unique ways that weren't even really possible even before iOS was an issue. So I gotta switch my screen here, but let me take a pause. Does anyone want to jump in, ask any questions so far? Okay, cool. Give me just a second. I gotta find this window. All right, great. Okay, cool. So I just started sharing again. Can everyone see this? Thumbs up. Okay, cool, perfect. So this is the dashboard of Cometly when you first log in, and it's pretty high level. It generally just shows you blended stats, right? So across Facebook, TikTok, Google, how much are you spending? How many purchases are you getting? What's your revenue? You can adjust these cards so that you're viewing leads or scheduled appointments or, clicks, whatever it may be. You can adjust the date range, adjust the graph that you're looking at. But it's pretty high level. Really where users tend to live out of is our ads manager tool here. Before I jump into the ads manager tool, I just want to show you guys some general agency functionality. We have what's called workspaces inside of each Cometly account, and there's no real limits to how many workspaces you can have. So, this would be the dashboard for one store, one client, one business. And then all you need to do to switch between different stores is, click on the workspaces drop down, and then you can click into, workspace number 2. And then this is going to be completely separate, siloed, individual data. This is like a test store that we just run from time to time. So nothing's actually live in it, but I just wanted to show you the functionality there. So again, just really easy agency functionality. So if you guys have, multiple clients that you send to us and you need to access all of their different dashboards, you're managing multiple people through Cometly, really, really easy to just jump from one account to the next without having to log out, log in, anything like that. And then, so within each workspace, really kind of the core of Cometly is our ads manager page here. So this is where you're able to see all of your accurate data, right? So this is, probably looks very familiar to you guys. This is designed to kind of mimic the Facebook ads manager, right? If you can't tell already, but same with our TikTok interface is the same. TikTok followed Facebook anyway. LinkedIn is the same. Google is the same. Google's interface on their platform is, slightly different, but it really follows the same structure anyway. Campaigns, ad groups, ads, across all the different, ad platforms, the tracking still works the same. The functionality is still the same. For the sake of this demo, I'm just going to stick inside of our Facebook ads manager because that's where, we run most of our ads out of. But again, everything I say is it's the same across all the platforms. Actually, before I kind of run through this dashboard, I want to show you an example of like what a profile looks like inside of Cometly. So inside of Cometly, like I said, when somebody clicks on your ad, our code fires and we're building a profile of that visitor. Let's see if we have one with some good info in here. Okay, so yeah, this is an example of a fingerprint profile inside of Cometly, right? And so the level of granularity in which we're tracking, again, is really kind of the power behind everything. So we're collecting all these different identifiers, right? So we're getting IP address, browser type, device type, operating system. So here's an iPhone user on iOS 17. Facebook would have messed up this attribution. Google would have missed this, right? We're getting the exact ads you're clicking on, the date and time, how they're engaging with your site, right? So when they're becoming a lead, when they're booking a call, the entire customer journey we're tracking back to the profile level. Something else I always like to just kind of point out is these people are completely anonymous until they submit that personal information, right? When they first come, this is all just kind of tech stuff that we're grabbing off the browser. It's not until they actually fill out a lead form or, submit a purchase that we're grabbing that name and email. But again, so this is everything that we're tracking. The first thing that we do is push this data back to each ad platform, right? So I can show you inside of Facebook, right, inside of the events manager, everything that we send back. So we send back everything that they'll accept. Email, IP, user agent, gender, zip, location, the click IDs. We can send click IDs for bottom of funnel events, which is, again, even before iOS was basically impossible. So we're pushing everything back. If you guys collect phone number or your client collects phone number, we'll send that back as well. And this is everything that feeds the algorithm, right? Feeds those lookalike audiences, feeds the placements, just feeds the learning. But again, it doesn't really fix the reporting one for one, which is why, we display it all inside of the ads manager. I also just realized that when I was sharing my screen on the events manager, that my tab didn't change. So I can jump into that real quick. Sorry.
It's easier if you just hit to share the whole screen that you're looking at, or the window
okay.
rather than the tab.
Saw that along the top now. Yeah, that's what I was looking for originally, but I'm trying to go on the fly. So can you guys see it now?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. And thank you for that tip. So yeah, this is this is our event match quality, right? And this is our real live Cometly account. So You can see everything we're sending, right? Now I'm going to repeat myself. Email, IP, user agent. If the phone number's in there, we'll send it. Browser ID, gender, zip, location, Facebook click IDs. We send all this same information back to Google, back to TikTok. Those platforms just don't have the, events manager page that displays it this clearly, or like the match quality in there, but we're sending all the same stuff back to the different platforms. And so again, yeah, this is what helps feed the algorithm, but it doesn't fix the reporting, which is why we display it all inside of Cometly, right? So now I'll actually get to the ads manager page. Like I said, it's kind of this hybrid ads manager of the different platforms. The way the data all works and is pulled is we'll integrate directly with your ad account for certain data, right? Obviously like ad names, but your spend, your impressions, your clicks, all of that's coming directly from the ad account. For any of you that have used, Triple Whale in the past, I'm sure it's very similar with their system. Like this should match up with Facebook. Where Cometly's data comes in is going to be what's happening in your funnel, what's happening, on your site. So this is our actual Cometly funnel. So we use it ourselves. We use our own product. We don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. But we collect leads, then they fill out a lead form based off of how they fill that lead form out. Inside of HubSpot, our CRM will qualify them. And when we track a qualified lead, we trigger that back into Cometly as a contact here. Then we want people booking calls and making purchases, right? So this is the visibility aspect, right? Being able to see every single step of your funnel being driven by every single ad set campaign. And, this is, again, what's great about this is, inside of Facebook, right? First and foremost, your lead numbers are going to be wrong. And then you're not even really going to be able to see any of those other events being driven down the line. Now, with this level of visibility, you can totally make decisions on a whole new level in terms of qualifying the success of a campaign. Something that we'll often see is, our cheapest leads can also be our worst leads. And I know there's a good example in here of, the date range got messed around. Oops. But sometimes we'll see like, $20 leads coming in, but nobody's booking. So I'll find the example now. Here we go. Here's a great example, right? $31 leads, average is 39, right? So $8 less per lead here, but of those leads, only 3 of them are qualified, and we're paying $212 for quality lead as opposed to $140 our average. None of them have booked calls with our team. None of them bought. So instead of scaling this ad up because the leads are cheap, we turned it off because it's not actually driving results, right? So just more visibility in terms of how things are performing. And another really cool aspect is, like I said earlier, we're a totally clear box. So when you have bookings tracked or leads tracked, you can click on that number, see the exact name, email, event date of everything that we're tracking, know exactly what is, what's not being tracked, compare it with your CRM, compare it with your backend, be very comfortable with the data in your account. And then again, you can click into here and now get the full journey. That's kind of the gist of Cometly, right? Visibility, sending the data back. That's the 1-2 punch. But to give you guys kind of a use case, right? Like I said in my intro, Cometly, when we first came to market, we only integrated with Shopify stores. So we could only track e-commerce. But then about 2 years ago, we realized, hey, we're an ad tracking tool and we can't even track our own ads. So we adjusted the product, stepped it out to be able to track a full funnel like this, make it a little bit more B2B and funnel tracking, integrate with CRMs. And then we were able to start using Cometly for Cometly. And one of the really cool things that we've been able to do, and that a lot of our now B2B customers do, is you can start optimizing your campaigns towards bottom of funnel events while still kind of tracking the top of funnel, right? So what we started doing is when we first launched, when we were, originally we would launch our ads optimizing towards leads. Now, once we got Cometly in place, we were able to start tracking all of this, sending it back to Facebook, sending it back to Google. Now, when we launch our ads, we actually optimize towards the contact, which is our quality lead metric. And when we started doing that is when we saw some really, really big changes. This was like 15 months ago when we started this. And at the time when we started, we were paying about $300 per qualified lead. Our actual lead cost didn't even change that much. We were at like $50 before. Now it's at like 40. So it went down 10 bucks. We were at $300 per quality lead though. And when we started optimizing towards the quality leads, that plummeted. That like got cut in half in a matter of weeks. And our lead volume, it went up, but it didn't change all that much. It was the quality of the leads that really started changing because we were able to use, this really high match quality to feed Facebook much better data on who we really want to bring in. So there's clients that, want to optimize towards not just the people who are booking, but the people who are showing up, right? Or not just the people who are booking, but the people who are opening deals for, or even optimizing towards purchases throughout a normal sales funnel. That's some really, really cool ways in which Cometly can be applied to not only track everything and view it all, but change how your ads are optimizing and learning your audience. So that's the pitch. Probably went a little bit longer than I was expecting. So I appreciate the you guys all bearing with me, but I hope it was clear and insightful. I would love to open the floor up to you guys now. Yeah, Connor, go ahead.
All right. So one of my clients is actually looking into triple whale or some sort of alternative. And it's funny that this was scheduled today because we were just talking about it on Tuesday. Triple whale doesn't work for them because they're not on Shopify. So obviously it sounds like you guys could. They do e-commerce, but they also do lead gen. So it's like they sell very high-end fire pits, and a lot of times it requires an initial form to be submitted, and then they'll buy a custom fire pit. They do offline conversions, and Google likes to attribute everything to PMAX, of course.
Yep.
When they started Facebook, and they don't know what's actually generating revenue. So you guys can work with like offline conversion imports and get the correct attribution for those.
Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on the tech stack. And so this is something that I wanted to cover too, is just pricing and referrals. I can cover that before we all jump off. But I would still have you guys, like whoever you want to send our way, like I'll jump on with them, even if they already know the pricing and value prop and everything, just to make sure that we can actually track for their system, integrate with whatever kind of backend they're using, make sure our codes can go everywhere before we bring them on. But yeah, so basically for the way it will oftentimes work, like for a CRM, for example, is we'll put our code on that initial lead form, that initial hit, and then the events later down the line can be either zapped to us, right, using Zapier, or pushed through with an API or a webhook. So that's how we're able to get the offline conversions tracked back into Cometly. And then we'll feed that back to Facebook and to Google through the conversion API.
Perfect.
Let's see. Anybody else? Any more questions? I can cover pricing because I meant to do that. Cool. Give me a second.
Yeah, great.
So our pricing is probably a little different than the other softwares you guys might be used to working with, like a Triple Whale, because we only do annual subscriptions. So we're only looking for long-term agreements, long-term partnerships, and we price based off of ad spend. So there's no limits on number of users or ad accounts or websites, anything like that, any other features. It's just based off of the ad spend itself. Our starting price is $3,000 for the year. That tracks up to $120K in ad spend. So basically anybody in kind of that like 8 to 10K range monthly, that's where it makes the most sense to start with Cometly, generally we say anybody like 5,000 or under, or like kind of newer businesses that, you know, aren't used to running Facebook ads, and this is kind of a new experiment for them, you know, given the nature of our price point and the long-term commitment, that's not necessarily where things make sense. And that's actually where we'll turn a lot of people away. But if you're 10K, you know, if you run ads all the time, you know, kind of the value there, the purpose, that's kind of where our ideal fit is. There's no real limitations in terms of integration. They're usually very kind of case by case, which is why I want you guys to send them to me. But also with the annual commitment here, we give 100% money back guarantee. So it's non-conditional. So it's not even like, oh, you increased your spend, or, oh, we tracked all your sales. It's like, if you decide, hey, you know, Cometly's not for me, I don't like the team, I don't like the software, whatever it may be, it's on contract, non-conditional. They can cancel, get the full money back within the first 60 days of signing up. The other thing worth noting on here is for custom setups, right? We have a handful of direct integrations, right? Like Shopify or WooCommerce. I can't think of them all off the top of my head. I can send them over to you guys afterwards. But for custom setups that would require like our devs to jump on and take a look at the stack and like put together something custom, we do charge an implementation fee for that. That's separate from the software cost. And that's just one time at the beginning. So if you have a client that has like 8 different tools and a custom backend, you know, we would charge the implementation fee for that. And then the software cost would be separate. And then the renewing software cost moving forward would be just based off of this to the left. The implementation cost would not be included. And then the other thing is we give 20% referral fee, right? So anybody you guys send our way, you'll get 20% from that. And we pay out net 60, right? So they need to make it through that 60-day opt-out period. And then you guys will get the cash.
They're going to pay do they pay it up front? Or just like, so how does that work? I guess if they,
yeah.
You
So it's paid in full. But again, it's totally risk-free for 60 days, right? There you go. So yeah, we like to take the initial payment, just to really kind of make sure everyone's serious, right? And it's not even just us, like it forces the client to take it a whole lot more seriously too, when the pay is there. So yeah, it's paid in full. But if for whatever reason in the first 60 days, they don't want to move forward, they can cancel and get the whole thing back. We do partner with Klarna. If any of your clients are concerned about cash flow or anything like that, they can pay through Klarna. But for us, unless it goes through Klarna, it'll be paid in full otherwise. And then something else that's worth noting here is, I told Cassandra yesterday, and I mentioned it at the start of the call, we have some really, really big enhancements coming out in about 4 to 6 weeks. Again, kind of the core of the product is the same, right? You want to be able to see where everything's coming from, and you want to be able to feed that data back. But what we're rolling out is a lot of the really cool bells and whistles, right? That I mentioned Triple Whale kind of had early on that we never really focused on. We're going to be rolling out dashboard. Well, first of all, full marketing attribution. So you'll be able to see organic, you'll be able to see Pinterest, Snapchat, you know, all the different sources, and then also be able to customize, you know, your dashboard and run different reports. So you'll get that aggregate analytics on who's clicking on Facebook, then Google, then buying, and that type of reporting. So we have all that coming in 4 to 6 weeks. With that, our pricing will be changing. I still don't know what it's going to look like yet. I haven't gotten that information from my team yet. And I'll keep you guys in the loop with however that proceeds. But it will be changing. Anyone who gets in before then, right? If you guys have any clients that you're like, oh, this is perfect right now, they'll be grandfathered in. So everything we do is on contract. You know, they'll be locked in at this price for the year as they renew, all of that. So as long as they sign up within the next 6 weeks, this will be the pricing. And then again, it'll change a little. Don't know exactly what it'll be, but it'll be changing. Well, great. I mean, that is just about our time limit. I have 15 more minutes to keep going, but I don't want to hold anybody else. If you guys need to jump, if anyone wants to stay on and keep asking questions, I'm happy to do that. But for anybody that can't, really appreciate your time. Hope to be hearing from some of you or all of you over the next couple weeks. And again, yeah, just appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank
I
you,
love that.
buddy.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So yeah, I guess Cassandra, it's just a matter of you said you'll send a follow-up email, include me on the chain. Guys, I can send over at some point, I can send over a bunch more materials. We have like in our help center, there's like these Cometly 101 videos. They're like, I don't know, they're broken down, but they add up to be like 20 minutes. If you guys want to pour through that and get a more in-depth understanding of how the whole system communicates, flows together, I can send them those over. The presentation I went through today, it's like under construction right now because of all the changes we have coming. So you guys saw the bare bones of it, but we'll have over the next few days our designer touch it up a little bit and get some good links and references in there. And I'll send that over to you guys when it's ready as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, buddy, for your time. Excellent presentation. I really enjoyed like the first few slides, like talking about like how it works, because I think, yeah, that's something that I had always wondered, like when it comes to tracking and like GA4. So I really appreciate the breakdown. But if there aren't any other questions, I guess we can all hop off and I will send out that email shortly.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for putting this together. Again, I appreciate everybody's time and we'll be in touch.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
See you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
Everyone.